You're listening to the Radical Transformation Speaker Salon, hosted by Nicole Harlow. 4 days worth of transformational interviews, meditation, and surprises designed to rock your world and change your life. Your year of soul discovery and wild metamorphosis starts today.
Hey guys, Nicole Harlow here. I am here with Amber Leitz of sacredglow.com, and I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview about who Amber is if some of you haven't met her before. Amber is a sacred sexuality and sensuality, bliss, pleasure, and love coach. She builds herself as a health and sacredness coach to love your body, tap into your pleasure, and build the life of your wildest dreams. A little bit about Amber. It's her belief that once we recognize that life is a sacred journey, only then can we begin the process of true healing. It was through her awareness of sacredness that she truly learned how to heal herself on a mind, body, soul level. For years, she was in a toxic, loveless relationship with herself, and she often felt as if a huge part of herself was missing. She hated her body and felt completely disconnected from herself in every way. Spent most nights in writhing in pain because she was so bloated from overeating due to stress. And one day she experienced an awakening and realized that there had to be more to life than hating her body, stuffing her face, and living a life with zero passion. And I'll let her tell you a bit more about how she got onto that journey, but she also discovered the power of sacred rituals, which have allowed her to fall deliciously in love with her own sensual feminine body. Through rituals, she's opened her heart, liberated her spirit, calling more pleasure, bliss, ecstasy, and love into her body and life. So, we really got into some wonderful, juicy stuff here about sacred, sensual rituals, and again, a bit more about self-care. So I hope that you enjoy this this conversation between Amber and I. The last 6 weeks or so. So I've been doing the design work for at least 18 months, probably closer to 2 years now. And it doesn't really leave much room for connection and for my spirituality, for that kind of spiritual side of myself. And so everything from these conversations like this, that you and I are having now, the speaker series, the whole program, your year of radical transformation, that really just was born out of my own desire to get back to that part of myself where I was having conversations not about branding, but about sensuality and sacred sexuality and meditation and the cycles of the moon, the zodiac, all this really cool, juicy stuff that I love personally, but hasn't shown up in my work in a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I checked out your little snippet and it looks amazing. And I'm drawn to anything naturally that has anything to do with sensuality, and I'm diving even deeper into sacred sexuality. I'm actually hoping to go to Bali next year for training on sacred femininity or even tantra, and being able to weave that in, and also with my working with women on the sensuality, but taking it a step further and going into sexuality, because everyone kind of confuses those things, and they're very much interconnected, but those are the things that have really allowed me to step into what I know that I was divinely brought here for, not just health coaching, which is what I originally got into, and kind of just had a meh attitude towards it. And then I started to just really go through what I actually connecting back to my body has been the hugest, most impactful experience for me. And that's why I realized that it's so much deeper than just nutrition for me and what I want to offer to women in the world.
I want to get back to that in a second, but as a side note, what you just said about going to Bali next year to do like sacred sexuality or tantra or something is totally on my list too. So I'm curious, like, are there any programs that you're looking at now, or have you already like signed up for something?
I haven't signed up for any yet, but I've been, working on my manifestation skills and really out, like, the money that would be needed for it and the time that would be needed, and kind of trying to like figure out when I would be able to fit it in financially and actually in my calendar. So there is one program that is called Sacred Femininity Training, and it's by Tao Tantric Arts. I believe it's like Shashi Saluna.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
So I've been considering that one heavily just because I like the concepts that they put together. But I do, regardless of whether I do that one or not, I do want to continue going into like maybe a more in-depth tantric training, because I just feel like when you're getting more into like the sexuality side of it, I think that it would be better to be there longer than just a couple of weeks, and maybe to immerse myself into just like the whole environment for a little bit longer. So I'm kind of just keeping my eyes and ears open, and I've had a lot of women that have like recommended programs, and there's like an ashram somewhere, and I can't remember. I think it's in India, Sri Kali maybe ashram.
Okay.
I've been checking that one out, and I think that one's a little bit more immersive, like 3 to 6 months or even a year. So
I think there's also something, I can't remember the name, but I feel like there was maybe like a tantric ashram in Thailand. I want to say.
That's where it is. It's either Thailand or India. I don't remember which one, but I know that there's like several. So I've just been kind of trying to figure out who I would really like connect with teacher-wise. That's important to me, is making sure that I'm getting in like a very safe, sacred environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just cool that you brought that up, because that's actually something that's really high on my manifestation list for next year, is just creating an opportunity to go study some kind of, I feel less drawn to like doing a longer tantric immersion, but I would like something that sort of combines almost like a retreat environment, so I can relax and do some deep work, but also, rather than just be centered around yoga, that it's also centered around like femininity, sacred sexuality, or sort of sensuality, or something in that realm. I'm not like, and I would like to, if I could combine it with doing some kind of like Yin Yoga training, then it would just be like the icing on the cake for me.
Completely. You and I are like incredibly aligned right there. Like, I've put this like as one of the top priorities for next year. In fact, like I'm just like talking about it as if it's like already done. Like, oh, what are you gonna do next year? I'm like, oh yeah, like I can't guarantee that I can go like on all these vacations with you next year, because I might be going, I'm for sure going to Bali or India or somewhere where there's training for that, and they're just kind of like looking at me strange, but I know that it's going to happen, because it's really, really important to me, and like I want to be able to go further and deeper with my own, women clients, and like that's where I'm going on my own journey, and I know that's where I want to be able to show up better for them, and to provide that support space for them to heal in that way, because it is so, I can't believe like how much it's coming up, and just like how many women are opening up and embracing their sensuality, and then realizing, okay, I really am a sensual and a sexual being, but I have all of this trauma and all this darkness, and they're so terrified of it. And for me, I realized that I needed to just like seductively dance with my inner seductress. That's what I always say.
I love that. Yes.
And I've been creating like all these rituals, and especially around like the new and the full moon, it gets incredibly powerful. And I know that I just need to almost create like a womb-like environment for myself to express her. And it's always through very like erotic sensual dance or sensual movements. Yoga, I work with a jade egg, and that has been so transformational for me in my own sensual and sexual journey, is using a jade egg. And so I really love creating like really sacred, self-love, cultivating sensual rituals for myself on a daily basis, actually. But especially when I do like those big rituals where you're doing a lot of heavy cleansing or calling in around like the full and new moon, and just letting myself feel and embody all of that, all those beliefs that I've been carrying around for so long, and just giving them a safe container to be expressed and embodied completely for healing.
So when you're working with a jade egg, are you like, how do I want to put this? Is there like an energetic component to what you're working with? So are you kind of putting it inside and then like moving energy around your body, or are you just purely using it as like, sort of strengthening the muscles while you go about like dancing or yoga or something like that?
I was attracted to very egg in February, and that's really where like I exploded into sensuality. Like before that, I was just, into health coaching, and I knew that there was more. And so I started working with the jade egg, and, everyone was talking about the jade egg in place of like Kegels, except that there was resistance. So, but for me, I didn't really see it that way. Like I heard a lot about like sexual energy and, just helping you establish like this really healing, loving relationship with your body, but taking it a step further and being able to almost like harness and cultivate this life force energy, this sexual energy, and be able to use it for like creating projects in your business and manifesting your desires. So I was very the energetic and the sexual healing and establishing a relationship with my body and like with my own divinity, and kind of bringing like that Shakti goddess energy in. So it wasn't very much about like, oh yeah, I can just heal like, the pelvic floor and incontinence and like replacing it for Kegels, which a lot of people kind of, I think, are medically drawn to it for that reason, like just like the general information. But there's so much more that you can unlock in yourself when you allow it to be like a very healing, transformational tool. Like I see my jade egg as my lover. Like I build a relationship with it every single day, and before I even began using it, I built a relationship with it by just, cleansing it, putting it out under the full moon, infusing it with my intentions, and kind of just like meditating on it and allowing my body to get used to being around the energy of it, because crystals are so healing and empowering, and like it's completely changed like my entire life when I picked up that little jade egg, and I can't even like explain how it is other than just harnessing that sexual energy and the feminine energy and being able to tap into my pleasure and to be orgasmic and really just using it for healing and cultivation. And I think that it's really been one of those tools that has allowed me to cultivate awareness around my sexuality, and also cultivating and harnessing my own creative projects, and to not get caught up in that masculine overdrive where you're like, okay, I need to launch this by X date, I need to do this. Instead, like really reveling and indulging in the long process of cultivating and gestating a project that takes time and love and energy. So that's been a very beautiful unfolding for me in my own, sexual and business journey.
I love it how you connect the two, like this sort of sexual journey, the journey as a woman, and also the journey as a business owner, because I feel very connected to that myself. And actually I was having a conversation with someone last night where I was describing that in my business, all of these years, there's a creative impulse. Like I first feel the quickening of that creative impulse, and then something will like blossom or burst its way like out of me, and I may spend, whether it's like creating a program or it's writing a book or whatever it is, whatever that creative incubation is, I'll spend, some time where I'm working on it, and I tend to like go very deeply inside what I'm working on, almost with blinders. Like I'm all in it. When I'm writing a book, it's just like that is consuming me while I'm doing it. But what the interesting thing is, and I've noticed this is a pattern that repeats a lot for me, is like when I'm finished, when like at the place where you would think, you'd think, oh, I'm going to feel so much joy and happiness and excitement when I finish my book. What would happen to me is like I'd finish the book, I'd work on it for 4 months or something, and it'd be ready to launch, and it'd be finished it, And I'd experienced what I could only describe as like a postpartum depression that I would slide into afterwards, because there was like, it was done, like it was birthed, and then there was nothing, at least for a bit, you know, whether it's a few days or it's a few weeks, there was nothing filling that void. You know, it was like it created this sort of like gaping hole in a way. And, you know, that's definitely an intention of mine going forward, is like, well, two things. One is to recognize that there probably will be that period, and that's probably my body's and my mind's period of renewal. And it would really behoove me to like schedule some things in that time to really recharge and regenerate and replenish my batteries, and know like in advance that I'm probably going to be in that state of just quietness, you know, but also feeling like a bit empty. And then the other thing is just for me to recognize that as soon as I reach a plateau, that I have the type of personality that I'll be looking for the next mountain to climb. There's only a very brief period where I'm going to feel like I need the rest at the end, and then I'll start to look around and say, okay, like where's my next mountain? So if I can be more sensitive to that, I can start to strategically like almost like place those mountains in my own way, like throughout the time, like not in a striving way, but just in a way that I know that's when I'm in my zone of genius and feeling pleasure, is when I'm like working my way up that mountain. And then, you know, I can appreciate that journey. But yeah, I love the connection between like being orgasmic and being a business owner, because I think that they are connected. I mean, I think they're always connected.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I actually have been really trying to focus on taking like my core desire feelings, for instance, I have like several of them, probably more than are usually recommended, but like
I have tons.
I always take them, and I want my business and my life, like, yeah, I don't want to work like, 24 hours a day, but I want my life and business to almost blend together, where I don't want to escape from anything, and where it's like I'm in my zone and I'm in my pleasure zone and I'm feeling so like divine and sexually aroused and awakened and essentially embodied while I'm working, and then being able to say, okay, now I've taken my masculine action, I've given myself that space, but now I want to relax into my feminine and have like, those very strict boundaries, but at the same time, I don't fluctuate from going and being stressed like you normally would be in a job that's very unfulfilling for you, and then all of a sudden feeling good now that it's the weekend or it's the night. I want it to be very, very able to just flow in a feminine way and into my night. And that's why like I really love being able to take an orgasmic, sensually embodied, pleasurable kind of approach to my business and have it be very based in the divine feminine, and being able to receive and get support and to take those breaks throughout the day to just like reconnect to my body and have my little rituals, and have it be very much about, how can I be of service, and how can I work, like, for instance, with, I'm starting to get into, like, using the moon cycle to help you with business, and
Yeah, me too.
You're created during certain times, and around my menstrual cycle, I'm very, very tired. It's a very intuitive space for me. I get very creative, but I also want to just be in my own space. And then, towards ovulation, I feel very high energy. This is the time for me to really take action. So I'm just trying to kind of blend together this like big mixing pot of really honoring my true needs every single day, and being the highest service that I can at the same time, but making sure that every single day I feel aligned and in tune with my own presence and my own divine calling, and being able to make sure that I'm still in my feminine when I need to be, and making sure that each aspect of myself has its own space to really flourish, and to just be and embody the true essence of what I was essentially put here for. Because otherwise I find myself just like feeling very disconnected, even though I have this really strong vision and I know that I'm here for this great reason. If I kind of just like, throw it all into the wind and do whatever, I feel very unsupported and I feel so stressed, and it's just not a good place to be. So I've learned that like it's really, really, really important to do business in a way that is still honoring your body and your needs, and implementing that like sexual energy or that creative energy, because it really is, it's the same. If you're not creating a baby, that energy is still in you. So if you can like harness it, it can really help you cultivate projects. And like you said, it is like you can get so deeply immersed in your projects, and then it does kind of feel like it's like a climax, almost like you're building up to it, and then you have this cosmic boom, your project is out there and it's done, and then you're kind of just like coming down from the high, and there might be that little bit of sadness and postpartum kind of situation, because you birthed this baby into the world, your creative baby, but there's always so much more energy to circulate. It doesn't just explode out of your head and go away forever. You can learn to circulate it through your body and reuse it and regenerate it and always tap back into it. So that's something that I've really been playing with heavily in my own journey, and I've been talking about it a lot with women, and they're definitely noticing it too in their own like personal lives and their businesses too.
That's something, what you just mentioned about circulating the energy is something that I love, and I got into a few years ago. And ever since I learned that the technique of like, for me, post-orgasm, I'm always circulating that energy through my body, kind of moving it up and down, out through my limbs, bringing it up to my heart, sort of breathing it up to my heart. And even creating like an intention for it that's not, I'm sure you do the same thing. It's like creating an intention that's not even sexual, like, this orgasm is going out for world peace today. Like, because they're these like tiny little like atom bombs, these explosive, tremendous amount of energy that's released in an orgasm, that we have the conscious ability to sort of move around the body and also like send out of the body, for an intention, like whether it is for your work or for someone else or for your love or for yourself or for, I have a cold, and so I'm going to send all this like orgasmic energy to my immune system and like help to strengthen it. It's like, it's one of my favorite practices. And it's like, and I really enjoyed, like, I assume that you've probably done some work with this too. Just one of my other favorite things is like having or moving energy into like heartgasms. Yeah, I figured that you would be like having the heartgasms. Man, it's so good. I even a few weeks ago I went to see my osteopath, and she's someone that I had just started working with, and she does a bit of like craniosacral therapy as well. And she articulated some things that I felt in my body and about my body that I had never heard like a practitioner say out loud. They're things that I thought about myself. Like specifically, had been feeling a disconnection between like my head and my hips, say. Like my feet feel really far away. They feel quite disconnected from the rest of my body. I don't feel very grounded in the bottom of my body. And in Ayurveda, I'm definitely a Vata type. And so there's just a lot of like airy, I also have the Gemini connection. So there's a lot of airy, floaty, up in my head kind of energy going on in my body. And she really picked up on that. And she said, it's getting cut off at your diaphragm, so right below your heart. And we'll work on reconnecting that. And I was like, okay, and then like got on the table, and she started doing some light sort of craniosacral work around my body. And then she got to this point where she's like, okay, we're going to work on heart opening. And she had her hand on my chest, fingertips pointing down towards my navel. And she just started lightly like pushing down, just like ever so slightly. And I just started like smiling, then I was laughing, and I was like, oh man, I'm having like a heartgasm right now, because I could just feel inside my body this reconnection between the top and the bottom, and it was right below my heart, and I could just feel that it was like my heart was smiling. Like, I would really say my heart was smiling. It was like, it just had this feeling of like, man, this is so good. And then it's funny because then I turned to her, and like afterwards she wanted to see like what I was feeling, and I was like, yeah, the feeling in my heart, it was just like so good. It was really like orgasmic. And she just like gave me this look that was like, yeah, but like she didn't really get it. And then I was like, oh wait, not everyone is like having orgasms.
That sounds like so delicious though. Like I've actually had like third eye gasms. And, I've had some very powerful experiences lately with just like cultivating that energy, but you can definitely tell when, if you start to like shut down and you're not really circulating it, it can almost feel like it's going to blow your head off, which is kind of scary at first, but I think it's really important to just bring awareness to it and to just focus on breathing through it and bringing it through your body. But yeah, like the heartgasms are so, I don't know, it's almost like you can't even really explain it. It's just like this instant bliss and love that just cracks your heart open, and all of this like beautiful like divine nectar just like spurts out of it all over through your whole body, and it's just all you can notice in that moment is just like love, like pure unapologetic love, and it's just so amazing to experience that, because I think that if more women and men too felt that, it would transform everyone's lives, and this might be a very different planet and experience for all of us. So I really love being able to use the orgasmic sexual energy for intention creating and circulating it to other areas of the body that you might need help with. So even if it's the heart chakra or the throat chakra or your third eye, so like if you need any kind of assistance, or even if you just need to keep it in the sacral chakra, like you can circulate it to any area that you need it for healing or for manifesting or just bringing awareness to for a whole new level of exploring or transcending. So I really love that you shared that experience, and it sounds like so good.
It was so good. It just was like a humorous reminder that not everyone is like, is it really familiar or at the place of like, knowing about heartgasms and third eye gasms.
Yeah.
And unfortunately there's so many women who are just struggling to get to the like clit-gasms to start with, So, and so I'm curious, how did you get, well, two questions actually. I'm curious how you got to the health coaching to begin with. So like, how did you get to the place where you wanted to own your own business? Like, but then once you got to health coaching, I'm also curious about how you got into the sensuality work. Like, what was the transformation, or what was the thing that kind of pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, good question. So a few years ago, I've kind of always had a very distorted, like tumultuous relationship with my body, like a very, very bad relationship. I'm also Vata, and I was just like, I've always been very small in size, and as long as I can remember, I've always, up until maybe 4 years ago or so, I just was very, very disconnected from my body, very numb. I was very cut off from my own pleasure. I didn't even really know how to treat my body. Like, it was just this different thing that, I happened to be in. And, I always had an awareness of something outside of myself and within myself from a very small, young age. I knew that there was something greater out there, but I kind of just was going in and out of this awareness through life. And when I started to really look at my relationship with food and my body, I realized that I didn't love myself and that I didn't take care of myself the way that I should. And, I had problems. I struggled with emotional eating and stress eating, and I've struggled with that up until this past year, and I kind of just like never really put two and two together until I started having problems with like my digestion and just feeling so unfulfilled in all areas of my life. Like I was going to a community college, but I didn't really feel into it. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I started to kind of just listen in to my body's signs. It's telling me that, you know, something isn't right. Like there's a disconnect. So I started, you know, doing a lot of research online. I stumbled upon some blogs that were in essential oils and the raw vegan kind of lifestyle. So I started experimenting with that, and then kind of led me to one day the Institute for Integrative Nutrition just like popped up one day when I was looking at stuff, and I was like, wow, like, this school looks amazing. Like, I really, really want to go here.
Yeah.
And then a year later, it popped up again somehow. Like, I ended up listening to like some kind of audio class or something, and I was just like, okay, this is my time. Like, this is my time to do this. And I signed up. I did, and it was the most the most terrifying and exciting moment of my life. Like one of those moments that you know is going to be pivotal. And like I just remember feeling this relief, yet this terror, yet this excitement. And I, you know, went through the course, and I was vegan for about a year and a half, and was still kind of in this phase of not being completely in my body. Yes, I was eating all these amazing foods. Yes, I was in this amazing program. Yes, I was doing all these things that I thought I should do. But there was still a huge disconnect from my body, and she was screaming at me, and I was ignoring her. Like in her aspects, not even just the relationship with my body. I was in a relationship that wasn't good for me with another person, and there was no trust in any area of my life. And one day, I realized that I needed to listen in and to actually honor everything that my body was telling me, because I started to lose my eyesight. I was 89 pounds, which for me was not good. I mean, I've always been small, but 89 pounds is not good for me. So I realized, you know, my body is just like, and I started having the same problems I was before. I started eating really well, which was bloating and acne and all these terrible problems. And I knew instantly that it was from me ignoring my body. So I transitioned back into eating, you know, an omnivore type diet, and really going towards like a pleasure diet and an intuitive diet. So it may not be the same every single day, and I've really been focusing on healing the emotions before I go to choose food, and really just asking my body every single day, what do you want to eat, and honoring it. Even if I do eat raw one day, or I do eat vegan, or I do eat animal products, I make sure that they're the highest quality, and that, you know, really just listening to and trusting my body. So from the nutrition standpoint, that was huge for me.
Okay.
It opened when I started to trust my actual physical body. It's when I realized in around January or February of this year that yes, I love nutrition, and yes, it is huge, but it's almost like just the gateway to everything else. Like, food is very important, but it's almost like the root chakra. Like, it's kind of just like that base, but there's so much more above it and beyond it. So that it's kind of like almost like the foundation for everything else that you can build in your life. So I had figured out, you know, if I just trust my body in what she wants to eat, and I just honor her every single day and do my best to listen to her and give her some pleasure in the form of food, you know, she'll be okay. That'll always be a journey, but she'll be okay. And then I started to really just look deeper, and I knew that there was something missing. There was just like this component that I felt unfulfilled. And I don't even remember how I honestly started to get into the sensual stuff. I had been really into like sacred rituals and just really viewing the body as this sacred vessel, almost like this goddess to be honored. And that energy started to really circulate through me very quickly. And I found myself kind of just stumbling upon all these different blogs and all these different women and all these different modalities and practices that talked a lot about, you know, sexuality. And then I just started to really get in touch with things like massage and really trying to heal the even bigger disconnect with my sexuality and my body, because I never really realized until maybe a few months ago that everything that has happened in my life since I was a toddler has actually been setting me up for this divine purpose of being able to help women with their sensuality and their sexuality. Like, the reason that I was so cut off from my body, my pleasure, and manifesting certain illnesses in like the sacral chakra and bladder region was because I had cut myself off completely from my own sexual life energy and my own pleasure, and I had been terrified of having pleasure for so long in every way, not just sexually. So really started working with the jade egg. I stumbled upon it. I think it was Kim Anami is the one that I first discovered.
I love her. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I joined her course, Vaginal Kung Fu, and it completely opened my world. Like, it felt like this flow for the first thing in my life. I just felt like everything was flowing as it was meant to. Like, there was no pushing, there was no pulling, there was no manipulating. Everything was just coming to me every single day as I knew that it needed to. And it opened me up to this deeper level of trust, this deeper level of surrender, and no longer wanting to settle in any area of my life. And I can honestly say that last year I was going through a lot with, being in IIN and, really just gaining that little bit of control back in my life. But at the same time, I was still very much playing small, very much disempowered by some of the choices that I was still settling for. And when I started working with the jade egg and really started healing myself sensually and then awakening that sensuality and embodying it completely and treating my body like a sacred goddess, and every single day just getting clear on my desires, whether it be, a physical desire or just the desire in my body, it made me just blossom into my true self. And I feel so much more confident, so much more embodied in my truth. And I feel like for once in my life, I am completely zoned in on what I'm meant to be doing. And I have been able to establish like even better rituals for maintaining that and sustaining it, and opening myself up to meeting all these amazing people who are able to support me in the next level, and me being able to support them in a level that's also in their own journey. So I call it my spiritual and sensual awakening and embodiment journey. Like, that's what and it really blossomed in February when I joined Kim Anami's course, and now I'm actually in Layla Martin's Jade Pleasure course, and that has been kind of like the next layer, and like that is just helping me call in like even more amazingness. So I'm just like really blissed out at this stage, and I'm just so like grateful that every little thing that's been happening in my life has been happening for me to reach this stage to help women with the exact same things that plagued me for so long.
What a powerful story. And also, I've just been smiling the whole time listening to your story and taking notes, because both Vaginal Kung Fu and Jade Pleasure are two courses that I've personally been looking at. So it's really nice to have, like, hear someone, on the other side, like, recommend both of those courses, because I have never worked with a jade egg before. I've been really drawn to it. In the last, it was probably like a month ago or something, I just went and bought like a kind of cheapy, like the vaginal exerciser, like Benoit balls, but like just a bit different, made of silicone, with a little thing. And I really like using them, but I'm also I had the feeling like there's an upgrade here. Like, this is not like the be all end all. Like, I know that there's like another level to go to, and I really knew that like the jade egg was that next level, to go to, and also just having like the kind of like crystalline power behind it too, which I really do connect with and believe in. I don't have it with me because I've moved around a lot, and in the moving, things go missing and stuff, and unfortunately, I used to have a selenite wand that you're not specifically supposed to use it as like a masturbator or like a sexual tool, but I definitely did. Although the guy at the crystal shop, it's funny because like it's so embarrassing in a way, because like I was like picking up the selenite wand and I'm thinking, like I know what I can do with this. Yeah. And it was like he totally anticipated it, and he's like,
Well, he was so like sweet about it and like not awkward in the slightest, but he was just like, well, I just want to let you know that selenite shouldn't get wet. It's not really a crystal that you should get wet. And I was like, oh, okay. But like in my head being like, right, I'm just going to put a condom over this thing that...
That's awesome. I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually have a rose quartz. I call it pleasure wand, but I got mine from shokrubs.com.
Oh, yes, I know Vanessa from Shokrubs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that has been another thing that has completely if I could recommend like anything to a woman who is interested in like harnessing her sexual energy and really healing her sexuality and trauma, is to work with crystals in the form of jade eggs and the pleasure wands. And for me,
yes.
I would need like the rose quartz one because I just have, you know, certain trauma that I've carried from being a child, and just, you know, like when you're a child and you're exploring your body, and then your parents, like, you know, they catch you and you automatically think like, this is bad, this is dirty, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there's that the rest of my life. And I realized when I started doing all this work and this uncovering that, you know, that was the moment in time when I was sensually and sexually exploring myself and being like multi-orgasmic as like a toddler. And then, you know, now I'm not even understanding what I'm doing or reading it. And then, you know, me automatically associating that with, okay, this is bad, this is dirty, this is wrong, it's not safe to feel this pleasure in my body. And then, you know, no longer allowing myself to have that pleasure. So I started doing like rituals with the rose quartz pleasure wand, and that is now like almost a daily thing for me, is using that for healing with the jade egg, or, you know, whenever my body feels called to do it. But I even like recreated my first time having sex with the pleasure wand. It was like, I wrote a blog post about it. I think it's like reclaiming innocence through sexual healing. Called what it's called, but I documented like my journey with it, and it was so emotional for me. Like, I burst into tears, and I felt like my heart was cracking open, and like it was just me honoring myself, because I didn't have a particularly great time my first time. You know, it wasn't how I would have wanted it to be. It wasn't all of honoring my body, which I should have been treated like a goddess in it. You know, I didn't know that at the time, and that's perfectly okay, because a lot of us don't. But the amazing thing is that anything that has happened to you in the past, you can recreate it in a healing, loving, like beautiful way to re-honor yourself in the here and now, and you can carry that with you for the rest of your life and continue recreating any trauma and releasing it using these tools. Or even if you just, you know, get back in touch with your own sensuality, I found that was a huge thing for me, was learning to touch my own body, even in a non-sexual way, which a lot of women can't do. They feel so uncomfortable just touching themselves, and, you know, honoring what they truly need and desire, even if it's outside of their body, and what they want to do with their lives and who they want to be associated with, and, you know, anything. So
even if it's just something as simple as like sitting down and giving yourself a foot rub or a shoulder rub, or just, you know, giving yourself a hug.
Yeah, like I hug myself and I kiss myself on the shoulder, like that for me.
Me too.
Now it's like I need to do these things for myself, because it feels so aligned for me. And like, you are in the ultimate relationship with yourself. Like, you are your beloved, and before you can even give love to anybody else, you need to be able to love yourself. Like, I really think that self-love is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself. It is just like, self-love is the foundation to everything. It's really truly is. Like, if you don't love yourself, then you won't even trust yourself. You won't even trust your desires. So how can you really go after anything else in your body or life if you don't have that trust and that love? So self-love has been that kind of like underflowing current for everything in my life. You know, my sensual embodiment journey, my sacred sexual journey, and everything else. Self-love is there as that like kind of like nectar that holds it all together, that glue.
Now, where you're living right now, is there, let's see, what do I want to say? I'm just curious whether there's like in-person events that you go to that are along this the path, you know, of sacred sexuality or movement or embodiment, or is this very much like a personal and maybe online practice?
I live in an area where it's probably very taboo. I don't live in the greatest area, and I'm actually looking to upgrade that very soon. Those like manifestation vibes, but
Yeah.
I'm actually really planning to do like my own sensual play shops and like workshops for women, because I love being able to help women online. Like, it's so amazing because I really do like feel very divinely called to my message, and I want to spread it far and wide. But I also love the aspect of sisterhood and intimacy and in person, and being able to infuse our intentions and energy together and to watch them like unlock those aspects of themselves in person. So there's very much that quality of like magic and beauty that I want to witness in a physical, sacred, safe space with women.
Yeah.
So I've been making plans. I live in Michigan right now, in Southwest Michigan. So I'm planning on going to Chicago very soon to schedule some workshops at yoga studios.
Oh, okay.
And I've even have like this dream of almost like going on like a sensual play shop tour, and like, you know, going to different areas in the U.S. and then eventually going outside of the U.S. and doing like these like mini retreats or workshops, and just like, because I really want to, with this kind of work, it's very easy to hide behind a computer.
Yes.
Because it can be very scary, but I want to bust through my own illusions and veils with that and really just create that environment for women, because I do think that it can be very, very healing when your energies are together and there's that physical contact of at least being near each other in a space that is created just for healing and awakening and embodying that sensual and sexual component. So I'm definitely looking to have both an online presence that is, you know, very dedicated to those women who just want that, and then also having a very physical, intimate component around the world.
Well, I'm going to watch this space and see what you create, because, and part of the reason why I was asking is just because in my own personal situation, I live in Malta, and it's a teeny tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and it's only like 20 miles across or something. And historically, it's like a very like, it's like 99% Catholic or something. And so it's quite like a reserved or restricted culture. Yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's by the sea, but there's certainly not any like tantric retreats or like cuddle parties or anything like that. And I am just like, I'm on this journey of self-discovery and very, very connected, and similar to everything that you've said through this whole conversation. I feel right there with you in a lot of those things. And I know that, a few years ago, probably 3 years ago now, I went to Costa Rica by myself, and I just met up with these really, really cool girls that were there to teach like a tantra and yoga retreat. And they kind of took me under their wing and just said like, come with us, like come down to this house, like you don't have to just pay for your food, like you can just come and take the workshops and stuff. And we were doing like workshops about like yoni massages and intimacy practices in a sexual but non-sexual way, you know, sort of sitting with someone and touching them and rocking with them. And I haven't done something like that now for almost 3 years, and I'm just craving it. Like, it feels like one of the strongest cravings in my life right now is to manifest physical experiences like this, you know? I know the online stuff will be, especially taking like these, you know, the Jade Egg courses and things like that will be a great introduction, but I know that there's a graduation around the corner from that, and I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm going to seek that out next year, definitely.
Yeah, I love that you said that's a craving, because I feel the exact same way. Like, if I could say that I have like 2 cravings right now, it is for sisterhood and like to go even deeper and further in the sacred sexual and femininity and divine feminine and like sensual journey, but in these environments that are just like, it's almost like I can feel it pulling me towards those things. Like it is actually like a craving, and
yeah.
Sometimes it kind of scares me because, you know, there's a lot of taboo around all of this stuff, and like I can even notice like when my family members joke around with me, I can feel like a little small part of me that, you know, is just like, oh my gosh, like I can feel my trauma coming back up, but then I just have to like re-empower myself and say, you know, they don't even understand because they're still so stuck in their own trauma. And this is exactly why, you know, women need work like, you know, what we're offering here, what we're talking about, like this needs to be brought up because women do need this to heal and men do too. I think it's a craving for a lot of people, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah, so maybe we'll cross paths in Bali doing sacred sexuality work and very tactile things. I think that would be so
doubt it at all.
So wonderful. So Amber, can you tell me a bit about like some of your favorite rituals? Maybe either things you do on a daily basis, or maybe like a moon ritual. Just some of your most like juicy, powerful, transformative things that you do.
Yeah, well, my daily rituals, I'm very big into sensual movement or like sensual dance, and this is very much just free form. Like in half the time, it's like combined with yoga, so it's just kind of like me moving around. But I love doing like hip circles and imagining like that energy circulating through me. So I try to make time every day for some kind of sensual movement or dance, and like combining it with mantras and just my intentions. I'm also very big into breast massage.
Oh, me too. Yep.
Yeah, it's another huge thing, and you can learn to, you know, circulate that sexual energy through breast massage and working your way up to those orgasms with breast massage too. And you know, it's really great for the lymphatic system too, which is a plus. But so I always give myself a little breast massage every day by candlelight with music, and I also am like really big into like herbal tea and making like tonics and elixirs, like a medicine woman kind of thing. So every single day I have like a herbal hot chocolate drink or like a cacao hot tonic, and that's my thing. Like I take tons of pictures on Instagram of them, and people are always like, "Wow, give me your recipes." So that is the thing. And lately, doing the jade egg practice has been a ritual, and you know, just taking some time every day to touch my body, even if it's not sexual, but especially to get naked, like every single day. To just explore and to notice if there's any tension or stress or unloving feelings towards myself. So getting naked is like one of the biggest things that really helps me to reestablish the relationship with my body and to become essentially awakened and embodied. So like if that's a huge thing, is just getting naked. So those are kind of just like my daily rituals.
And what are you doing on like a typical new moon or full moon?
I usually will do some kind of dance ritual where I'll just kind of focus on either releasing something or focus on my intention and moving through it. And then I'll do the breast massage. And then I've been doing the jade egg thing because it's very, very powerful with the moon. And then the sexual energy, and I'll infuse like all of my intentions and all of my releasing into the jade egg. And then I'll finish with like a manifesting sexual ritual where, you know, I'll circulate the energy and then eventually bring myself to orgasm and use that energy to manifest whatever I wanted to set my intentions on for that particular new or full moon. And then just, you know, writing down intentions and burning away any old ones, and really just being gentle and honoring myself during that moon period.
Do you have a favorite crystal?
I do. Like, I feel very drawn. Like, I love jade, but there's something I love lately about rose quartz that has been really connected to me. I think that it's just because this year has been really big about self-love and gentleness and honoring that I feel very drawn to rose quartz, but I see myself getting more drawn to like red jasper and like these really beautiful like red crystals, because I think it helps with like awakening the kundalini and the sexual energy. So I know that I'm going to be drawn more to those kinds of crystals in the future too.
And the root chakra crystals. Yeah, I'm looking right now. Just when I set myself up for these interviews, I have on my desk, there's like some of my tarot cards and then a whole plate of crystals, all different kinds. And there's some rose quartz on here and amethyst and citrine and just some quartz points as well. And lots of, little sweet crystals are hanging around. And then I pulled a card from the Miracles Now deck just to kind of guide the conversations. And the card that I pulled is I share my light with the world. And I just thought that was such a fitting card, to keep next to me during all of these really like beautiful conversations. Is just giving both myself and you the space to share our collective light with the world.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're just about out of time, but you have definitely inspired me to go buy a jade egg now, and I'm going to have some show notes that go along with this conversation where the listeners can find out about vaginal kung fu and jade pleasure, and I'll get you to send me the link to your blog post about reclaiming innocence. We'll put that on there too. And shock rubs was another thing that we had talked about. So I'm going to list that, and people can sort of find your work and then also find some of these recommendations to bring in more pleasure and more self-love into their lives.
Yes, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Like, I love being able to just flow, and I really appreciate you for like giving me this opportunity to share my message, and to see your message too has been really beautiful.
Great. Yeah, no problem. And I know that you and I will have plenty more to talk about in the future, because I know we have some more conversations lined up that we'll be having. And yeah, if anything like this conversation, it will just be so wonderful, because I had a list of questions and I hardly even asked you the questions. It just flowed so beautifully from start to finish that I wanted to just go with the energy of where we were going. And it was in quite a different place than I initially had intended it. And that's wonderful. I even like that much better.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And I'm glad that we were able to have that flow, because that's really what I'm trying to embrace.
Yeah, me too. All right, Amber, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon.
You too. Bye, Nicole.
Bye.